Ladies and gentlemen, what a guest we have with us today. This player has represented his country for both test and one-day formats. He's got over 500 first-class wickets. He's won 7 titles, 3 county championships, 2 T20s, 2 one-day cups. He is a Surrey and Warwickshire legend, the king of Guildford, Rikki Clarke.
Welcome, Rick.
King of Guildford. All right, lads, how are we?
All good, mate. All good.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bit greedy with your trophies, are you?
Just could have won more, but a few finals went the other way.
Yeah, I left them off the intro. Don't worry, it's all good.
That's right.
Quick 5 questions, mate. Just start off. We've got 5 questions. So, would you rather have an extra 5 mile an hour of pace, or an extra 6 inches of bounce? Backer than slowy? Oh no, actually, sorry. Answer that first.
Oh, what we talking about now?
5 mile an hour.
5 minute quick fire.
Let's go again. Extra 5 mile an hour of pace, or 6 inches of extra bounce?
5 miles an hour of extra pace. Yeah.
Backer than slowy or knuckleball?
Backhand slowy.
Swing or nip?
Ooh, swing.
Good bouncer or good Yorker?
Good Yorker.
Round the wicket or over the wicket?
Over the wicket.
Are your thoughts there, Righty?
Well, clearly Clarkie's massive. So I actually went on your Wikipedia and it said you're 6'4", but I thought you're taller than that, aren't you?
Well, it's that sort of. I say 6'4". I'm actually just shy of 6'5". But
so that's why you pick pace.
It's not, yeah. So it's not like a great thing, is it? Like when you say your height, I'm nearly 6'5". So I rounded it down. You know, it's like shoe sizes when someone's like, "What size feet are you?" Well, I'm nearly an 11. But you know, okay, you're a 10, mate. That's what. Just you're nearly 11. You're a 10 or a 10 and a half. So with that, yeah, I said 6'4", but I'm probably closer to 6'5". So that's why I went a bit of extra pace, because I can hope to get the bounce.
What were the other? Yeah, that's what I thought. What were the other ones there? Did you
back of the hand slowy, rather than knuckleball? Only on the basis of I sort of had a lot of success with the backhand slowy, so that's sort of like my go-to. Don't get me wrong, like you'd like any sort of delivery and more sort of strings to the bow. You look at someone like a Benny Howe and stuff like that has had lots of success with a knuckleball, and Adam Hollyoake years ago used to have like the split finger and knuckleball that brought him a lot of success as well at Surrey. So they're all like decent deliveries, but yeah, I went back in the hand slowy.
And just the last one with swing or nip, what did you say again?
I said swing. So again, it's just because of the sort of success I had. But again, you look at nip, like both of you lads can nip it and stuff like that. You look at a Rushworth, nipped it. So, but I always just felt if I had the ball swinging, I was a lot more dangerous. So I just went with the one I felt more comfortable with.
I thought your most comfortable was when you went enforcer it.
No.
You love that job, didn't you?
Yeah. That was an absolute. I got loads of stick for that sometimes as well. You think, I didn't nickname myself the enforcer, but some of the pictures are so placid, and you're like, well, what's going to happen here? And you get thrown the ball, and I need you to steam in and make something happen. Like, okay, so I'll be on the injury list for the next couple of weeks after this. Thanks.
I think, in all seriousness, you've got so many good attributes and good qualities that you were the captain was able to ask you to do a number of different roles. I think you opened the bowling in T20, for example. You bowled at the death, you bowled through the middle, you've gone enforcer in red ball cricket, you've opened the bowling in red ball cricket, you've been a guy who get the ball thrown at him to get a wicket out of nowhere. Equally, you were a guy who held his length really well, so usually to bowl through to the keeper and dry the scoreboard up. I think do you know what I mean? You're a victim of your own success, mate, to be fair.
Yeah. Where do I send the check? Crikey. Oh, you're right.
I'm only being nice because I might want you on again, you know.
As I said, if you want me on again, take that shirt off.
Yeah, I'm squeezing into it. But
those who are listening, it's a very tight-fitted Arsenal shirt.
Yeah,
it's my son's Arsenal shirt. It's the bright yellow one. It's a pretty a pretty rogue kit, actually, to be fair. But I thought you'd appreciate it being a Tottenham fan.
Yeah, not at all.
So I think Keith and we thought about some questions to ask you and stuff. And obviously, we don't want this to be too formal because obviously we're all good friends and we go back a long way. But we wanted to sort of find out about your early career at Surrey, because that you kind of exploded onto the scene and stuff. And obviously, this is a sort of bowling-centric podcast. So how much bowling were you doing in your early career, and what sort of bowler were you?
Oh, I think when you look back from when, so we're going back to early sort of 2000. So I remember I was probably selected more as a batter who could bowl, but the Surrey lineup, you look like it was just star-studded. I think we had back then we had something like 4 or 5, I think, internationals not getting into the starting 11. Okay, so to be actually playing in that starting 11 was obviously a massive sort of achievement for me, being such a young age. The first class season in 2002 did really well, and then went on tour to ICC Champions Trophy with England after a first sort of full season. Then with that sort of 2003, I was bowling more for England than I was with Surrey. And it was just a case, because you look at it, we had the likes of Martin Bicknell, Azam Mahmood, Jimmy Ormond, Ed Giddins, Sackley Mushtaq, Ian Salisbury, that you probably chuck a couple others, Alex Tudor. So you look at all these, so I was never really going to get the ball. And it was always a case of, if I did get the ball, back then I actually did bowl quick, early 90s and just used to steam in. And that was a case where I was used as a strike bowler. I remember a couple of times I'll get thrown the ball and it'd be like, look, nothing can happen. At the moment, we can't get a wicket, or nothing's happening, can't get a wicket. You've got 4 or 5 overs, steam in, get the wicket, and then we'll get the lads who, can hold a length and be tight, create the pressure again, and try and build the pressure that way. So I was always used as a strike bowler. So I'd leak runs, but obviously would get wickets. And that's pretty much the case of where I was at. And there was sort of spells sometimes where I'd be economical and bowl nicely and bowl long spells and stuff like that. But as a whole, it was always, there was other people to go to first rather than me.
Interesting. With that, obviously, I came across you when you were at Derby, and you faced a young spring chicken left-handed batter, left-arm bowler, who I think pulled you for 6, if I remember correctly.
And he didn't flick off your helmet.
When you moved to Warwickshire, for me, it was quite interesting when you joined. I don't remember you bowling that much when you first came in.
And I got to Warwickshire eventually, and it was a case of Graham Welsh and Ashley Giles and Jim Troughton that sort of saved my career. And I remember Graham Welsh saying to me, like, what do you want to do? What bowler do you want to be? And I said, well, I want to be a bowler that bowls overs. I want to be a genuine all-rounder. Because sort of for England, those early years, I was a genuine all-rounder. I play one-day internationals. I bowl 8, 9, 10 overs sometimes. I'll go on England A tours and bowl 10 overs in a 50-over match and stuff like that. It was really sort of weird that, county cricket wasn't really for me in the bowling sense. So he said, look, let's work hard. I said, okay, what do you want me to do? He said, right, let's think of a plan. And I remember it started off, I reckon, I think it was down in Canterbury, where he said, right, I'll see you out here 8:30 tomorrow morning. I was like, okay. And then we did 8:30 every morning without fail for literally year after year after year, every day, every game, if it was home or away. Ashley Giles sort of got a hold of me and said, right, your time management, you're an all-rounder, you need to get your batting in, you need to get your bowling done with pop, and then go get your catches in the slips as well. So it's all about your time management, and that's how it sort of went from there. I was out just trying to basically aim at T-tail basically type thing.
Yeah.
I used to put the markers down, didn't we, and stuff, and I just aim at that, try and hit top of off, and just didn't bother changing. And it was just got more confident. And then it was a case of, you know, when the captain turns to you, you just do that, and then you build up that sort of confidence and reliability for the captain, and you'll just keep on bowling overs. And next thing you know, it was, I was like, you look at the success we had as a bowling unit with you two, Chris Wokes, Boyd Rankin, Jeetan Patel, me as well. It was just fantastic, really. It was really good times. It was, because we all knew what we needed to do, and we were highly skilled at it. And that was through hard work from everyone. And you know, I don't want to big him up too much, but from my point of view, how Graham Welsh hasn't been involved in a England tracksuit as a bowling coach more often or permanently is beyond me, really. But I'm sure his time will come.
So just quickly then, on all of that, was there no kind of guidance when you were at Surrey?
Jokes aside, I remember they said, look, Martin Bicknell, 1,000 first-class wickets, he knows what he's doing. Could literally put 50p piece down and hit that. You know, you need to watch what he does and copy what he does. Now, the funny thing was, I was obviously a lot younger, and Bickers was a lot older, and he sort of knew his game. So where I was probably naive or potentially a little bit thick, they said copy what Bickers does. So one morning, Bickers come out for a warm up. Literally went out, looked at the wicket, went back in, grabbed the newspaper, and had a cup of coffee. Who's next to him reading the paper, having a cup of coffee? Me. I was like, they told me to like watch what he does, and that's exactly what I did. But it was always a case of, you know, I think it was a stage where at Surrey I knew that I wasn't going to bowl a lot, so I focused on all my energy on other aspects of my game, and that was obviously the batting side of it, and that's why I'd score hundreds and stuff like that. But it was always a case of, to be a genuine all-rounder, I needed to be able to do both. And that's when I said, you know, when I got to Warwickshire, I had better sort of time management of what I needed to do to make sure I was covering all bases.
Yeah, I'm loving these sort of old stories you're telling. This is class. And actually, you mentioned England a minute ago and how you bowl more for England. I've been on Wikipedia, as I let you know earlier. The England attack that you were part of on your debut, can you remember it? Because I've got it written down. Because it's a good attack.
Debut, I reckon it was Hoggard, Harmison, Giles, and I can't remember if Saggers or Richard Johnson was playing.
Who? No. You're a little bit off there, I think, mate.
Yeah, you're way off. You're way off.
Test debut in Bangladesh?
I'm talking your one-day debut against Pakistan. Sorry.
Old Trafford.
Yes.
So Old Trafford, who would have been part of that? That would have been Darren Goff. I think Flintoff.
Yep.
Jimmy Anderson.
Yep.
Trying to think who else. Anthony McGrath, I think he was in there as well, didn't he? Anthony McGrath.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And there's another seaman that I'm missing that might have been.
Is this a joke or not?
No, come on. Who's the seamer?
What do you mean? Is this a joke?
Who's the seamer?
Ashley Giles.
Yeah.
Was it Gilo? I thought I was missing a seamer. Yeah.
No. Gilo.
Gilo.
Yes, that's some attack. That, like, in all seriousness, did you tell a good story, don't you? About, did you face Shoaib and Mohammed Sami in that game, bowling rapid at you?
So not in that actual game, because that actual game I got a wicket with my first ball in international cricket, and at the time there was only something like 7 or 8 people who have ever done that in the history of the game for England, and one was Jeff Arnold. You remember Jeff Arnold, Horse?
Yeah.
Who was obviously a bowling coach at Surrey and stuff, and Northamptonshire and Essex. So. Yeah, that was quite handy. But I remember there was a game at Sophia Gardens. It was, and Shoaib Akhtar was bowling. And it was frightening because, like, when you stood at the other end, have you ever faced Shoaib or?
No, thankfully not.
God, no.
Yeah, thank you not. So you literally stood at the other end. You know you're 22 yards away, and he's literally 80 yards away because his run up was massive. So you literally stand there and go, right, okay, come on, get yourself psyched up. You know he's bowling quick, but really get yourself psyched up. And then you tap and stuff, and then you're there, you're getting ready. And this long run up starts like he's gonna like throw a javelin or something. And, you know, the crowd are going and everything like that. And the longer it takes to do his long run up, the more thoughts that go through your head. So you're standing there like, right, get that out of there, get that out of there, and stuff like that. And I remember him bowling the ball at Sapphire Garden, and I'm not even joking when I say this. All I heard was it slap into the middle of the wicket, and then after that, I didn't see it. I just heard it whistle sort of like past my nose, and I just, as I heard it slap, I just sort of like a turtle, I sort of poked my head into my shoulders and heard it go whistling past. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm so out of my depth. Turn around, and I think it was Moeen Khan was on the 30-yard circle, taking it right above his head. And I was like, oh my days. And you used to have the NatWest speed guns right in the corner on the big screens, which we sort of still do now, don't they? And I remember looking up and seeing it as 94.3 miles an hour. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, please just bowl the stumps and get me out of here.
That's serious. That's serious pace.
It was serious pace. But it was entertainment. You know what I mean? I think anyone that bowls fast, it's just entertainment. It gets the crowd going, and it wasn't fun to be down there 22 yards away. I'm
sure. So flipping back to you and your move to Warwickshire then. So do you credit all of your success to lots of hard work and target bowling in the mornings?
Yeah, I really do. I think, look, my career panned out the way it did. Okay, people said I should have played for England more in, Test cricket and one-day internationals. Fact of the matter is I didn't. If I had that guidance, I believe, early stages with a Pop Welsh for the bowling side of things, I think I probably would have played a lot more because I would have been economical. And also back then, as I said before, I was quick. So even, just coming down a few miles an hour to make sure that I got that sort of control and could still move the ball. I think I would have been a lot more successful international level potentially, but that's my sort of genuine thought with that. But we all know that, cricket can be quite savage. So it's a case of what you do at the time and can you sort of, get your skills right at an early age. And you look at so many different players that do that now.
So just on that, Rick, you saying you'd have taken a few extra mile an hour off to get your areas as such. We've noticed there's a lot of pushing for pace. Just your random coaches across the world that like promote pace, not done much in the game or haven't even played the game, but tell and teach people how to bowl quick. But we find just from playing that, obviously you need to be accurate, don't you? I mean, this episode is pretty much about you and your economy as well, and how good you were in all formats with your economy. And just to see, you think that actually hitting your area is very important as well. If you got pace, great, but you need to be accurate.
Massively, from the way you look at everything, a lot of the most successful bowlers, don't get me wrong, some quick bowlers can maybe sort of knock over a towel every now and then, but batters nowadays are used to pace. You've got so many different things that you can use and bowling machines and different sort of skill levels that the batters have. But the one thing that hasn't changed and will never change is a good line and length. That has been around for years. And I don't believe that, the pace is important, really. You can look at so many different county cricketers that haven't got a lot of pace, bash a line and length and pick up wickets for fun. Now, some people might say, oh, yeah, but the county pitches, they're a lot greener, or using a Duke's ball, or they're bowling in April. I don't really sort of check for that too much, because at the same point, you're seeing runs being scored on these pitches as well. So I think, if you put a ball in a good area, you're going to create a lot of pressure. And then when you create pressure, that's how you're going to get your wickets. If you're leaking because you're bowling a long half volley because you're striving for that extra miles an hour, there's no pressure building at all. We used to have it with Graham Welsh as well. If it took all day, it took all day, but we have no let up and we just bash that area consistently. And we were all different paces as well. You had righty sometimes getting the old 1-2s on people, like hitting them in the head and then following up with a pacey Yorker. You used to get left-handers out for fun, well, anyone out for fun, but mainly left-handers because they'd be sort of trembling knowing that they're going to nick you. And, my sort of role was just be boring, basically, and just bash away constantly. I think a lot of the time, bowling to a right-hander, I could say there's lots of times I'd bowl, say, more than 20 overs in a day or an innings or something like that. And I'd probably say out of those deliveries, maybe 1 or 2 might have been something different. If it's a right-hander, left-hander obviously had different sort of skills that I wanted to bowl. But to a right-hander, I'd very rarely look to sort of do a massive innie, or if it was, it'd be earning the right. I just wanted to be boring and just take the ball away as much as possible.
So this is really interesting, and we're obviously having a lot of fun and we're telling a lot of stories here, but our listeners, we want to give them something to take away, right? And you've said areas non-stop. That's been the key thing that you've spoken about. So when you say that, what exactly do you mean? Well, for someone who's up and coming, like a young bowler,
up and coming, it's all about your line and length, basically. So I do it at the school now that I'm head of cricket at, and we have the blue targets. We put it on top of the stumps for right-handers, top of the off stump for right-hander, top of off stump for a left-hander as well, and then we put down cones in an area, and it's basically just repetition. Can you hit that area consistently? Okay, and don't get me wrong, it's brilliant because some of the pupils that we have, and even with my cricket academy, some of them are like, I want to bowl this, I want to bowl that, and I'm like, look, we will get there, but there's no point being able to bowl a wobble seam or an in-swinger and stuff like that if you can't hit a consistent area. There's no point having these skills that you want straight away, because you need to be able to bowl a stop delivery, and that's what we sort of, because cricket is evolving so quickly that youngsters nowadays, they see what is going on and they just want to be there straight away. And I think that's the case now, where it's you have to go back to basics. And I think sometimes cricket did go away from basics a lot. And that's what we try and do with my academy. And that's how I sort of coach as well with my pupils at school, that let's just try and get used to basics, bashing an area, being boring, and then we can go on to the next stuff.
So with your, you like Wright said early on, you had various roles in the bowling unit that we had at Warwickshire. What did you see your ideal role being? Just because I don't think there's a lot of even young players coming through county levels that understand what type of bowler they are, and sometimes can be trying to be someone they're never going to be.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them, and what advice would you have given yourself back then to where you ended up being?
I think the advice I'll give is, what bowler do you want to be? First and foremost, you have to have that clarity of what you want to do in a game of cricket. Do you want to be someone that constantly takes wickets and you don't mind going for runs? Fair enough, you're a strike bowler. Do you want to be someone that's got all the skills and you just, Jimmy Anderson, all the skills? But what people forget is Jimmy's got all those skills, but he still can nail a stop delivery with all those skills. So he can bash a line and length with a wobble seam. He can push it across the left-hander, again bashing a line and length, and shape it away in swing. He's covered all those skills, and that's taken him. If you speak to him, it's taken him a long time to get there. Okay, he didn't just go, oh, I'm just going to do this and not practice it. He practiced constantly. But the one thing he did do, because again, people forget. People look at Jimmy now and go, oh, mid-80s or early 80s. He used to bowl quick. Back in 2002, he was, again, 90-mile-an-hour bowler, rapid. But he wouldn't have had the same consistency of line and length back then. Because again, and that's fair enough, because he was a lot younger. But the one thing he did over the years was he learned to bash a line and length. And the one thing that I suppose a lot of youngsters listening to this, or anyone in club cricket or even county cricket that's starting off in their careers, that you have to practice. You have to have a purpose of what you're going to practice and why you're practicing it. Okay. And then it's not a case of, oh, that session went well that day, and then you go on to something else the next day. You come back and you go again. Okay. And I sort of alluded to riding a bike. You know, you have to sort of get on the bike, fall off a couple of times. It won't be perfect. You know, when we're young, we have stabilizers and stuff like that. Stabilizers come off. It's a little bit wobbly. You fall off a couple of times. Next thing you know, you're riding a bike, and it's just repetition. It just instantly happens. And bowling's similar. You know, you're going to have a few deliveries when you're trying to work on skills and trying to work on your line and length, and it's not quite coming out right. But keep going. And one thing you need to make sure is that as I said, you're practicing with a purpose. And you know, from my point of view, that helped me massively with Graham Welsh to make sure that I was doing what I needed to do day in, day out.
Well, one thing for sure is I won't be asking Jimmy Anderson, mate. Me and him still got beef from 2010.
Oh, that was funny.
I missed that. What actually happened?
I was waiting for him.
No. That's on another episode, mate, when we talk about like body language and all that stuff.
Are you allowed Pepsi on your podcast?
You're a pro, Rick. Some product placement there. Love it. Oh, yeah.
We allowed that? Other carbonated fizzy drinks are available.
Can I mean, Keith, you look like you've got a question there. So I think you asked this one. I know I want to start talking about.
I just remembered something, actually. I just remember that I played against a few teammates, and you two have got me out. I'm not happy with that. And I haven't got either of you out. And you've retired, so that's annoying. So I can't get you back.
Get me out, let me tell you.
And you just keep sticking around in Div 2, so you're hiding.
That's hurt him. Cut him deep.
What were you saying?
No, I was going to say, right, again, so some great advice and chat there around areas and being consistent and stuff. So shall we move on to your back of the hand slower ball, which is, Keith, do you agree is probably the best that we've seen?
I'd say definitely the best I've seen. I mean, I know, Rick, you have done, I think you spoke about the Jade's back of the hand, but still for me, yours was just that bit better, mate. When did you learn it? How did you learn it? And what advice have you got?
Well, it started off remember Ian Harvey, who was at Gloucestershire and stuff, and I remember seeing he had it, and I just felt that if I could actually get a better, I always wanted a decent slower ball, and the amount of times that I would sort of look for a cutter, and for some reason I just couldn't get the motion that I wanted with a cutter. So I was like, I need something different. How am I going to work on it? What I'm going to do? And it's basically, I saw Ian Harvey and I was like, right, he has a lot of success with that. Let's work on that. And just instantly, I just went and worked on the back of the hand slowly. Spoke with coaches of how to do it and what I was doing wrong at times. And then again, like, you have to try and figure out yourself what's going wrong. With the back and hand slowly, it's massively important that you commit to it and you bowl the ball. There's so many times when I first started, I was just trying to place it in an area that I wanted it to be, and it would drag down and bounce about 3-4 times. There was another one where it would go over the top of the net and stuff. But again, that's the whole point. You have to be, anything you do, and this is any walks of life, but particularly with bowling and cricket, you have to be prepared to fail to progress. Because if you're not failing, it means you're not trying to develop your game. Okay, and again, that's something I when I coach, that's the one thing I sort of really push on to the younger generation is, if you're trying something different and it's not working, you're going to progress because you're trying to get better. You're trying to develop and get better. But the backhand slow was something that I always felt that was just one of those things that had a lot of success. I think on the basis of, I was lucky because we spoke about my height earlier on in the show, and with my height, it allowed me to get my wrist position like it was a normal delivery. People never really saw the back of my hand flick over. They always just thought it was the 2 fingers and thumb and it was a normal delivery. And that's where I used to do people a lot. But it was always a case of practice again.
Your action, for anyone who's seen you, you're bound, and the rhythm of your action helps disguise it, definitely. Whereas, yeah, that's not the case with quite a lot of people, I find. Yeah, you have that lovely bound and that flow, and like you say, maybe that extra bit of height made it really hard to pick up. But Keith and I, yeah, both big fans of that ball. And in terms of that ball, what you've said there about feeling like you commit and bowl it, are there any other cues that you can divulge?
Well, I think, again, this is more sort of game management. You have to look at the scenario of what's happening in the game. What boundary have you got one side? Because sometimes you might have a short boundary one side to the leg side, and you're thinking, okay, look, I need to bowl this because I'm getting lined up, bowling my normal delivery. The Yorker's not quite happening, and the Yorker for me was never, like, as you two sort of will know and stuff, that the Yorker was never something that I could consistently get right. So I'd always, regardless of certain scenarios, I'd always go to the back and hand slow and get my sort of success from that delivery. But again, it's understanding that, right, okay, if I've got a small boundary on the leg side to a right-hander, I'm going to have to make sure that I get it slightly wider because they're going to try and drag it, and then that's how you get it up in the air. Where if you've got a big boundary, you can still go towards the stumps and try and make them sort of miss across the line. But it was always a case of make sure, literally, right, it was commit. It was understand at the top of your mark what you're going to be delivering and commit to it. And it was always making sure for me that if I could get that dip into a good length, it's still a good length as well. It wasn't sort of floaty and going up, because when you go a good length, the hands of a batter is always going to be coming through ready to strike the ball. If it's a little bit fuller, it's easier for them to slow their hands down and then sort of still launch you. So it was always making sure that length was back a bit. So it was, yeah, definitely the one thing I'd say is committing to it.
I learned a very valuable lesson from you, Rick. It's pre-season away. Just you mentioning about Yorkers, about it wasn't your go-to. Remember Nakash Tahir getting that ball still going from Nurse in the one-day game?
Oh, in Barbados.
Yeah. You then came on to bowl, and I think we were that fearful of what was his name? Was Nurse, wasn't it?
Nurse, yeah.
Yeah. Of just a big bat swing, quite a big, stocky bloke. And me and Jim Troughton told you got to go Yorker, just because, like anything else, you're gonna go the distance. That's what it seemed. And you were adamant you wanted to go back and down slowy, which was your strength, but you got talked out of it. And he probably took you down, not as much as what he did Naki, but he took you and everyone else down. And I think it was a valuable lesson, and you actually really, as you were quite honest and open with your opinions. You openly said that's not my strength. You should have gone to your strength, and I think it's a valuable lesson for anyone listening that, even though things can be going wrong for other people, you've got to go to your strengths first, and back yourself and commit to what you do best, rather than just kind of listening to others. Because end of the day, you're bowling it. It's on you. And yeah, you weren't happy because you weren't true to yourself. You actually ended up listening first over, definitely, to what we were saying. And just, it's really important, isn't it, of making sure you're clear on what you think is best for that situation, not what others think.
Well, I think, again, you look at, we were very fortunate enough to have all the sort of crick stat and the analysis and looking at players and stuff like that. And you'd have the team meetings, and it would always be a case of, don't bowl there to him because he'll hit you there, like that. And you go, well, that's where I've got all my wickets, bowling there. Or, don't bowl short to him, he's really good on the short ball. And you go, well, okay, but good on the short ball, he's not faced righty, hitting him at 90 miles an hour. He's been pulling X, Y, Z and stuff like that. And I used to look at it a different way, to say, go to your strength. And it's exactly what you said there, Bart. So you have to go to your strengths. You have to have a plan A, a B, a C, and if it's a D, you grab your hamstring and you walk off. Yeah, but it's always a case that you have to have that. You have to have plans. You have to have plans. You know, as they say, a rubbish plan is better than no plan. And I think that it's a case that if you go to your strengths, as you say, you're being true to yourself. You know that you can deliver that skill because it's your strength. Never worry about other people's strengths. You know, sometimes we've seen it over the years where, you know, I'll sit here still now, even though I retired in 2021, but I'll still sit here now and watch cricket on the TV, and I'm like, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? Like, you're giving the batter way too much respect. Yes, it might be a strength of his, but he's not even faced the ball yet, and you're sticking a deep point out, or you're doing this. You have to give it a good go, because at the end of the day, everyone's human, you know, and they're going to make mistakes, and you know, you always say it's a new day type thing. But I'm a massive believer that you go to your main strength and stick to it. And if it doesn't work, then you move on to a different plan. And as I said, sometimes if you do get to plan C, D, or whatever, I'm only joking about the hamstring, by the way, but you just treat it as a bad day, and you come back the next day and it can be completely different. You do exactly the same stuff and you find yourself with a 4 or a 5.
Well, obviously,
just quickly on that, you said about righty bouncers hitting people in the head. If I remember correctly, I hit people in the head more than righty at Warwickshire, for sure.
Really?
Yes, definitely. You know, make that clear. That's how I think you are.
Fair. They knew it was coming with me, maybe. I don't know. But you know, you said all of that stuff, Rick. It obviously did work for you, because your T20 economy rate is 7.55, which is incredible, and especially given the times of the game that you operated. Like, quite often you just do the whole power play, wouldn't you? 3 from one end.
Yeah, a lot of the time. Again, it was a scenario of, if I'm honest with it, it was just bowling championship lengths in T20. I think sometimes people get very carried away with what to bowl, and it was like, oh, you know, they're going to line me up, I've got to change it up. I always used to go on the basis of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, I will wait for them to hit me first. I was very sort of particular with how I had my field. My sort of extra cover would come round a lot more like, I'd almost have like 2. What are you laughing at?
Yeah, I bet he would be straight, wouldn't he? Like your mid on and mid off. You constantly.
No, that was my mid off. Mid on and mid off straight. My extra cover would come round more to a dead on point. I'd have a backward point, and then I'd have someone quite straight at cover. Only on the basis that I used to say to myself, that's where I should be getting hit. Anything, if I get hit just to the left of, say, my cover or extra cover, I've got it wrong. And that's what you have to be. You have to sort of take ownership of what you're looking to do. And for me, it was always a case of, you know, if I can get a brand new white Kookaburra ball that doesn't swing for long, don't get me wrong, but if I can, you know, build some pressure and just run in the bowl, a championship length, try and shape it away, that's what I tried to do, with the odd sort of back of the hand sort of come into it as well. Only on the basis of, if the wicket wasn't moving, or the ball wasn't swinging, or someone was trying to line you up, and you go to that sort of plan B and change it up a little bit. But it was always a case of just, again, being boring. And luckily for many times in T20, it worked. It's not going to work every time. But I always tried to come back the following game and stuff and do it all again if it wasn't quite right.
Just wanted to chat to you, Rick, about you when you felt you were at your best, how you emotionally controlled yourself to when you're at your worst, and how that affected your bowling. Just what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, so for me, it was always a case of, for many, many years, I would always carry the previous delivery into the next delivery. And as I got older, I sort of realised that I can't control anything about that. That's been and gone. So why worry about it? Why be bothered? And similar with all of my cricket, really, that you go, you didn't mean to do it. You've practiced and done the right things. You again, as I said earlier on, we're not robots. We're human beings. We're going to bowl bad balls, and it was more of an acceptance for me that is going to be the case. early on in my career, I was sort of very fiery and stuff, and the anger would be coming into the next ball. And then what happens? That goes for 4, and you've gone for 2 4s in 2 balls, and you're going right, and you steam in, and you try and bowl even quicker, and again more anger, and then that one will go for 4. I think that was the complete sort of different side of me. Was I looked at it on a basis of, and if I'm honest, actually thinking about it, it was probably around about the time when I was in England, and I then come out of England and got dropped, and then I was sort of maybe in again, and it was always that sort of time. I was always trying to show people what I could do, rather than saying, do you know what will be will be, because I wanted to play for England so much. I wanted to continue my international career. Where when I got a little bit older, I was sort of resigned to the fact that that's me. I'm done. They're not going to pick me now. Just enjoy your county cricket and just do what you need to do. And that was always the case for me. It allowed me to become probably a more consistent cricketer, because I was just focusing on what I needed to do on that day and not what was ahead and what I wanted to be ahead. It was a case of, if it happens, it happens. But yeah, I think bowling, you have to control your emotions in so many different ways, and also understand what your emotions are. If you're a person that needs to get fired up, do it, because if that makes you a better bowler, you got to crack on with that. But if you're someone who needs to stay controlled and stuff, then stay controlled and focus on the next delivery.
This is awesome, Rick. This is awesome. I'm loving everything you've got to say. It's so valuable. What one bit of advice would you give to a young Rikki Clarke between the ages 16, 20?
A young Rikki Clarke?
Well, maybe not such a loose cannon, just a young bowler.
Yeah. Look, from my point of view, I've said it already. It is all about working hard. I think I relied too much on natural ability and talent, and that was a case of actually I needed to work harder. And I think I look at some players now, batting, bowling, or whatever, but I look at the maturity levels of some of the players now. You look at your Ollie Popes and your Will Jacks and people like that. They work hard. They work hard in their game. They're very mature. And I think it's a case of, for me, it would be working out a plan of how I go about my cricket from a young age. But again, as I said, I honestly believe that's where I think coaching is so important, that you have the right coaches that you trust. And we had that with Pop Welsh, that we trusted what he was saying was right. And that is so valuable, because you've built up that relationship. You know that coach has only got the best for you. So I'd look at it and say, work out a plan of how you want to go about it. Work hard, and also always come to every session. I say to the pupils now and stuff at school, that come to every session and make sure that you leave this sports hall or net session or centre wicket or wherever it is 1% better. Come with a purpose, and you leave 1% better, because if you do that every session, it's not going to happen all the time, but if you can try and be 1% better in whatever it is during the course of a summer, you're going to be 10, 20, 25% a better cricketer. And that's what you need. It's all about developing and improving.
Just one more question. Sorry, one more question. You just said about coaches, how they can play a key part. What would you look for in a coach to get the best out of a cricketer, or what would you be doing yourself coaching to get the best out of any young cricketer?
See, for me, it's building that relationship. I think it's understanding that what you're saying is right for the cricketer. If I'm honest, the way I coach is probably completely different to what's in the manual. Okay, because I look at it and go, unless there's going to be an injury, particularly with bowling, unless there's going to be an injury, everyone is different. So I believe there's so many coaches out there that try and mould and have every single person bowling exactly the same, but they're different. So unless I see potential for injury, I sort of tinker and fine tune stuff with players and pupils. And then, as I said, we work on the skill element side of it, of away swing, let's nail that down. Let's cover all different skill bases as much as we can. But fundamentally, it is the line and length is focus for us at school, particularly. Can you bash a line and length? And then we have a bit of sort of fun with it, because, you know, again, they have to be able to try new things to see if there's a sort of hidden talent with a delivery they've never tried before. And also that gives confidence as well if they try new different things. So we always have different sessions at school where they're trying new things, and it be for Yorkers, slow balls, bouncers. We make sure we cover all that basis. But I sometimes see too many coaches say stuff for the sake of saying stuff. And I think sometimes, you know, you don't need to say anything. It's all a case of, are they getting the ball in the right area? Are they quite consistent for their age? Again, you have to look at the different sort of ages and the levels they're at. But I think so much hype is around, as you've alluded to, pace, a certain action. Should you have a brace front leg or a bent front leg, all this sort of stuff? There's so much hype around it. I just go with what feels comfortable for the boys and girls, and then you just work it from there. Because again, you know, I'll go back to Jimmy Anderson. He got changed when he was younger. He bowled absolutely rapid, but he didn't look at the wicket. He had a sort of sprawled front leg, sprawled front foot a little bit. And he went and changed, and he got a double stressy at the back. So you think,
well, okay, made me laugh there when you say he had a sprawled front leg.
Sprawled, you know what I mean? Sprayed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
yes, yeah. The sprayed front foot. Is that better?
There we go.
Yeah. So Jimmy,
you know what you said there with coaching. It's hard sometimes just keeping quiet.
Yeah,
isn't it? It's not easy just to let a player get on with it, and you've got all this stuff you want to say in your head, and you just have to sometimes be like, "Yeah,
but
nice."
I think that's the strength of a coach, though, to understand that they're comfortable within the job that they're in, or the setup they're in, or whatever it is, to say, actually, I don't need to get involved here. Because I think sometimes coaches will look at it and go, well, if I don't say anything, people think I'm not very good. So, you know, sometimes a good coach doesn't have to say anything. I'm just going to sit back. You're doing perfectly fine. Okay, let's keep working it. I have a little say here and there, but I'm not going to go in, well, this needs to happen in your front arm. That's got to be that. Make sure you drive through. Let's get the cones out, or do this, or let's get to... If it's not needed, you know, sometimes the way I obviously at a different stage in my career, and I was a different age, but you know, Pop Welsh didn't get loads of cones out and this and that and got me doing this. He just said, that's your action. Now just hit that more consistently. And we'll work out a way of you hitting that more consistently. And the only thing that really sort of changed for me a little bit was my front arm. I just didn't use my front arm enough. So I say to the pupils now, it's a strange sort of thing to say, but you don't actually bowl with your dominant arm. You bowl with your front arm, your lead arm. And for me, I was always bowling my best when this did the work. If this got lazy, it would be a bad delivery. If this did what I needed to do, it naturally helps you get swing on the ball. It naturally helps you get in a high position with your wrist behind the ball. It naturally helps you follow through straight as well, because it's doing all the work for you.
This has been an amazing interview, Rick. You've been a brilliant. No, to be honest, no, you have. You've been a brilliant guest. I think Keith and I have loved chatting with you. It's been like being in a changing room with you again.
Without the tantrums.
Yeah. Without worrying about the spray we get for not being straight enough or whatever. No, but in all seriousness, thanks so much for your time, mate. We really appreciate it. And for anyone listening, yeah, I'm sure there's tons of value in there. You mentioned a couple of times you're coaching at a school. Where can people find you online and stuff?
Yeah, so I'm the head of cricket at King Edward's, Whitley. It's just on the outskirts of Godalming in Surrey. Yeah, and fantastic. It's been a real good transition for me, going into sort of teaching, and covering all sports really. But yeah, we've just started our winter nets, so lots of late nights. We have the boys and girls in from 6:30 till 9 o'clock on a Tuesday and Thursday, and then I run my academy on a Monday night, and then 1-to-ones on a Wednesday night. So lots of late nights leading up to the pre-season. But again, for me, it's a love that I have, that I want to see the boys and girls flourish and give them that opportunity to get better. Absolutely loving it and ready for the season, and lots of good fixtures.
Who'd have thought the enforcer becoming a school teacher?
I don't give out many detentions either, I'm pretty sure. And the biscuits again, absolutely nailed in the staff room. So I need to find a gym soon.
I bet.
Rick, I want to say, mate, it's been great having you on. Absolutely loved it, and I definitely need to have you back on again.
Anytime, lads, and you know that. Thank you for inviting me on, and really enjoyed it.
Great. Well, look, if you enjoyed it, like, follow, subscribe, and all those things, and we're on YouTube as well, so you can find us on there. But for now, we'll leave everyone to it. Take it easy. See ya.
Yeah.
Cheers, lads. Thank you.